we're back live. Measure 2 being debated at a forum. By the way, this one by the Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber, but I know a number of chambers are doing these. There's a number of organizations that are doing these. I know the real estate folks have a meeting today in Fargo, state real estate leaders, and Scott Wagner from the Cass County Commission told me he'll be speaking to that group. So there's a great discussion going on, and that's a good thing. And we're going to chat with each of the panelists who are on the program today that you heard and get a chance to go behind the scenes a little bit into this debate. The first one is the closing speaker, former North Dakota Governor and U.S. Ag Secretary Ed Schafer, office boy at the Common Sense Club.
Hey, Scott.
How are you, sir?
Could be I came to check in what my duties are today as office boy. And it looks like I'm going to have to clean up the table here a little bit.
Yeah, your duties are to put this into English for us, because there were points in this debate when my eyes were rolling into the back of my head when we get into all kind of language. But bottom line for this, I mean, and if I think I heard you correctly, we do have a problem, and the question is how to fix the problem. Measure 2, as it's proposed, is not the best fix. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, I think people are unhappy with property taxes in this all across the state. It's a tough issue because you get your tax bill, you look at it, and you have to write a check, and you go, wait, this tax has gone up. I'm paying more for my house, or I'm a elderly widow in my home. My mortgage is paid off, and I'm still paying. It's like, there are a lot of things out there that are jumbled up in our tax system, and we're starting to get out of balance in North Dakota. And I believe that property tax, and in fact all taxes, need to be looked at by the legislature, and we need tax reform in North Dakota to bring a balance between income sales and property taxes to afford to pay for the appropriate expenditures in our government.
You predicted 2 outcomes: one, that Measure 2 would pass, and one that it would fail. That was pretty insightful. One of the two. But
got a 50-50 chance here.
But in predicting the 2 outcomes, you're basically saying either are going to be okay. In other words, you seem to be rejecting the sort of sky is falling arguments that if in fact this passes, the sky is going to fall.
Scott, as governor, I lived through the sky is falling scenario, and when we came in and said we need to trim budgets, we need to cut back, we need to live within our means, everybody said, the higher ed's going to cease to exist. The local kids aren't going to be educated. The fires, your houses are going to burn down. Even to the point of saying, well, we're not even going to be able to plant flowers at the Capitol, to make it look beautiful. So there's always the doomsday scenario. Living through it, I have no doubt that you can properly raise the money and spend the money in North Dakota in a manner that is appropriate for the citizens of our state without the state falling apart. This is an issue of where we're going to pay taxes and how they're going to be expended. Not that the state's going to fall apart, it's because it won't. Measure 2 passing is not going to cause taxes to go up if legislators so choose. Measure 2 is not going to, force any kind of cutbacks in expenditures or this and that, if legislators so choose. The reality is, if this measure passes, it's going to force North Dakota state legislature, governor, administration to do tax reform. That's much needed in our state. Same thing if the measure fails. We've brought enough conversation across this state to the forefront that is going to force legislators for tax reform. We can't let this continue to go on. So either if this measure passes or fails, I am excited about the fact that we can finally face property income sales or tax reform in the state of North Dakota, something that's sorely needed in our state.
Why are we here? Why are we in this mess? Who's dropped the ball?
Well, I think it's just been finger pointing all the way around. If you get your tax bill and go to your mayor and say, "My goodness, I don't like this," the mayor says, "Well, it's the state's fault. They don't give us enough money to fund our whatever." If you go to the state and say, "Well, how come my property taxes are going up?" They say, "Look, that's a local issue. You elect your mayor and your commission and your county commissioners, and they're the people that deal with that." And so, with that finger pointing, Scott, nobody's addressed the issue. Ultimately, this is a voter issue. If we're going to continue to elect mayors that raise taxes, if we're going to continue to elect legislators that raise taxes, if we're going to continue to elect commissioners that raise taxes, they're going to continue to raise taxes. The voters are in control of this, and we need to speak our minds of saying, we need tax reform, we want tax reform, and our elected officials need to do tax reform.
gave comments on both sides of this issue saying the sky will not fall either way. It's good. The discussion's good. The tax reform's good. Yet you've said at the end of this, I'm going to vote no. What's the strongest argument that led you to say, I'm going to vote no on Measure 2?
I'm a local control guy. I really think that the best government is the closest to the people. I like local government. I think it's responsible to the local people. And the farther away you get from the people, the less ability and responsibility you have to perform for those people. If we pull in the property tax revenues to the state of North Dakota, and we start shifting taxes from oil revenue or income tax revenue, into properly paying for local services, I think that comes with control. And, eventually the state's going to say, well, we're giving you the money. We want you to do it this way. And that's not a good thing. I think local control is the issue. That's what tipped me over. I appreciate the Measure 2 effort. I think it's appropriate discussion. I think this one element of taking away local control is a problem for me. I think government closest to the people is the best government, and this takes that away.
Corey Fong is your state tax commissioner as well, joining this discussion on Measure Number 2. Yes.
I got to go.
Yeah, I know you do. Thank you, Ed. Ed Schafer, former North Dakota governor, former U.S. Ag secretary on the panel today, and he's off to his next meeting. So appreciate that very much. And Corey now has sat down and joins us as well. Corey, Ed is opposing this measure, yet he's also saying if it passes, it won't be chaos. I have a sense that you have a different opinion that if it does pass, it will be chaos. Explain why.
Well, Scott, I appreciate certainly what Governor Schafer has said today. I think that in many cases, he has some very good points, and that's part of the reason that I, fundamentally have concerns about Measure 2 as well, because I'm a local control guy. I mean, all of us as Republicans are local control folks. I think most people in North Dakota believe in local control, even of the other political party's persuasion. And so I do think that in the end, I think that is the compelling issue why I have concerns about Measure Number 2. I do have some a little bit look at it differently than perhaps Governor Schafer does in terms of the likelihood that we're going to have to look at other tax increases. I mean, it's going to be difficult to take $800 plus million out of our state tax system, which comes from property taxes, without recognizing we're going to have to replace some of that revenue somehow. I think part of the goal of the proponents is to reduce spending at the local and state level. And
they also seem to be saying there'll be more revenue as a result of this. Do you see a plus side of this?
I have not found the facts to support that. And again, so I go back to my point is I think there will have to be, as a result, some reduced spending, but I think we're also going to have to look at some increases in other taxes. And so I do think that the legislature is going to be faced with a combination of reducing spending, but also looking at some tax increases as a result. And I think people need to realize that. And those increased taxes are going to have an effect on businesses, on whether they're going to do business in our state as well.
Corey Fong, State Tax Commissioner, joining us on the program. We're up against a break, so we'll take a short break. We'll continue with Corey later on in the program. We're also going to talk with other folks that were part of this panel today. They include Shar Nelson of the Empower the Taxpayer Group, Scott Handy, President of Cass County Electric, Cass County Commissioner Scott Wagner will join us, Craig Whitney, President of the Fargo-Moorhead Chamber, as well, before we wrap up today.